Hey, folks, it's Jack back again with Buzzword. More of the academic variety. This is the level C questions. I didn't check. I think the level C ones. These are accurate as of 2020. I think these are 2020 questions. Playing Buzzword here. Just a reminder, if this is your first, thought I heard a ghost or something there. If this is your first time watching this, so the questions are going to be a series of clues that go from more obscure to more well known. And the sooner you buzz in and get it correct, the more points you get. These are going to be academic with a little scotch of pop culture questions. There's only going to be, I think there was 4 in one of these last week, which is high. But it's going to be mostly stuff you learn about in school. Level C is the second highest available. I believe these are the questions for collegiate tournaments. So let's check them out. Here we go.
A 1760s effort to measure the astronomical unit by observing this planet's movements was frustrated by the black drop effect, though Mikhail Lomonosov did discover this planet's atmosphere.
Okay.
Mariner 2 did a 1962 flyby of this planet, making it the first non-Earth planet visited by a spacecraft. The Magellan probe mapped this planet covered with sulfuric acid clouds. For 10 points.
It's just Venus. I think Venus is just covered with sulfuric acid. Yeah. And that one was an interesting one because you can kind of just eliminate ones off the list. Okay, has an atmosphere. You can eliminate all the gas giants and Uranus and Mercury. So, yeah, no atmosphere actually, or having an atmosphere eliminates a lot of them. And then it was just remembering what probes did what, which I didn't have. But talk about sulfuric acid clouds. I'm with you.
One of these creatures stopped attacking the island of Enoshima when the goddess Benten married it. Another of them drank 8 vats of liquor put out.
Yes, the dragon. Yeah. That was one you could have stereotypically buzzed in on Enoshima, because Enoshima is probably going to be from Shinto mythology, and there's going to be dragons. But the 8 dragons all drinking alcohol, I think that has to do with Ogami? No, that's not the name. Is it the name? There's an 8-headed dragon in Shinto myth. I think it's Ogami. Oh, it's not Ogami. It's something else. Oh, I can't remember. Can't remember the name. We'll check in. We'll check in later as I play these questions. Maybe I'll remember.
This author wrote about Hal Warner, who works for the General Fuel Company and eventually advocates for the rights of miners in the novel King Coal. Another novel by this author opens with a wedding feast in honor of the Lithuanian immigrants Ona and Jurgis Rudkis. Horrific conditions in the Chicago meatpacking industry inspired a 1906 novel by this author.
Sinclair. It's Upton Sinclair. I thought I heard a she pronoun in there. But I think maybe I really thought I heard a she, or maybe I just thought they were talking about a character that roughly sounded like an Ayn Rand character.
This politician described being attacked by a Venezuelan mob in his 2020 book, Six Crises. After losing a race to Pat Brown, this man held a press conference in which he declared that reporters wouldn't have him to kick around anymore.
Oh, it's Nixon. You don't have old Dick Nixon to kick around anymore. So not 2020 relevant there. That was not actually a current events question.
Pencil and paper ready.
Oh no, math, I forgot.
Preston needs to know the determinant of the 2x2 matrix whose first row is 15, 4.
I don't even know how to do determinants.
Second row 15, is 3, 10.
310.
He begins by first computing the products of each 12. Pair of diagonal elements, or A times D and B times C, then subtracts to find their difference. For 10 points, find the determinant of the 2x2 matrix whose first row is 15, 4, and whose second row is 3, 10.
So it's 138. Okay. Forgot there's math.
The mythical origin of an island in this country is depicted by the Gayfion Fountain. A museum in this country showcases the sculptures of Bertel Thorvaldsen. The Longelini Promenade in this country's capital contains a twice decapitated bronze statue by Edvard Eriksson, which depicts a fairy tale character who sits by the waterside. For 10 points, the Little Mermaid statue is in what country's capital of Copenhagen?
Yeah. I was... I'm going to say I was stuck in a Scandinavian, but I think Denmark's technically a Scandinavian country. But I was on Iceland for a while, so I was trying to figure out what was going on. And then when they got into the sculpture, I didn't put two and two together to get to Copenhagen and then to Denmark.
This character rents a fast horse and carriage from the Fleming Scoflair, who cleverly deduces that this man is traveling to Arras. A wrongly accused man named Champmathieu is exonerated when this mayor admits to his own...
This is kind of only one famous mayor in literature. It's Monsieur la Maire. I don't know enough conversation to go through all of it. But yeah, Jean Valjean, after he escapes prison, takes on a new identity as a mayor, I believe, of the city that Fantine was in, and that's how he interacted with her before she dies.
In 2008, this disease killed the Ukrainian teenager Anton Tishenko, whose death was wrongly attributed to a vaccine. Over 33,000 people contracted this disease during a 2019 outbreak in the Philippines. Rates of this disease surged in 2019 among the Orthodox Jewish community in the Williamsburg area of Brooklyn. For 10.
This is measles. Okay. Current events measles question from 2020.
Sheriff Richard Walsh captured participants in this plan who robbed Warwick Cathedral. The Jesuit priest Henry Garnet was executed for not alerting authorities to this plan. Robert Catesby led this conspiracy.
It's a gunpowder plot. It's like, oh, it's the Guy Fawkes thing, 5th of November, but they weren't going to take 5th of November. I had it off of that first clue. I figured it had to be the 5th of November plan to blow up Parliament with a bunch of gunpowder, and I just didn't have the name of it ready to go.
Fernando Doniz claims that this city stole his design for a 150-meter-high picture frame that was built in Zabil Park. Artificial islands created off this city's coast include a set of 300 shapes.
Yeah, it's got to be Dubai. A bunch of artificial islands. So that's probably the artificial islands they're talking about are probably the ones that are roughly equivalent to like the countries of the world. So they have, islands in the shape of the continents, and the other associated islands. I actually don't know how big it is. I think people are living on there. There's also no, it's not the jetty, or is it? Yeah, the jetty that looks like a palm tree that has islands around it too, and there's definitely rich people living on.
In one story by this author, a dashing bandit who operates on the Chinese-Paris border is the central figure in tales that enthrall the young members of the Comanche Club. This author of The Laughing Man wrote about the eccentric Glass family in several works that appear in his collection, 9 Stories. For 10 points, what author wrote about the rebellious teenager Holden Caulfield in...
Oh. Yeah. They didn't say good day for banana fish in there, so that was not my deeper level of Salinger novel or Salinger knowledge. So just listen to a bunch of stuff that you don't know, and then they say Holden Caulfield.
The call of these animals is evoked in the 5th Symphony of Jean Sibelius, a composer whose Lemminkainen suite contains a movement named for one of these animals of Tuonela. Camille Saint-Saëns represented one of these creatures in the penultimate movement of the Carnival of the Animals. For 10 points, the Princess Odette turns into...
Okay. That was one where you're kind of... I was trying to think of what animals it was likely to be. So, talking about animals in composed classical music, there's going to be a lot of, like wolf for Peter and the Wolf, then all the other things and all the other animals in there. So you have like ducks and whatnot. I don't know Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals that well, so it didn't have anything off of the clue, but then you say Odette, and we're right into Swan Lake.
In a 1995 film, Kenneth Branagh played a character with this name, whose final line is, "From this time forth, I will never speak word." Gilbert Gottfried.
I think that was Iago. Okay. Yeah. Oh, then they said Gilbert Godfrey. I should have just waited. Uh, I hazard a guess that they were talking about the Much Ado About Nothing that Kenneth Branagh starred and directed in. Or starred in and directed. Because you knew it was some Shakespeare. Yeah, I should have just waited. Oh well. Took a shot, didn't pay out.
This rapper claimed, "I got my city doing front flips on a track featuring Saba that was titled Angels." In 2017, he donated $1 million to public schools in Chicago. Like Kirk Franklin and The Dream, he performed on Kanye West's Ultralight Beam. Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz appear on this man's song, No Problem. The Big Day is the 2019 debut album of, for 10 points, what rapper who released the 2016 mixtape Coloring Book?
I don't know what any of these are. I'll just hazard a guess. Okay, Chance the Rapper. Yeah, I don't know anything about Chance the Rapper.
Unbound examples of these particles decay with a half-life of approximately 15 minutes. Fast examples of these particles can be converted into thermal ones by heavy water or graphite, which are moderators of these particles. Barium-141, Krypton-92, and 3 of these particles are produced when uranium-235 is hit.
It's just alpha particles? Neutrons. All right. I should have waited on that too. I don't have... we had a pretty good string there, and now a pretty bad string.
The Digha Nikaya describes 32 marks that make this person a great man. He expounded on the proper usage of skillful means in a sermon he gave on Vulture Peak. The omnipresence of dukkha, or suffering, is one of the 4 noble truths that...
It's just the 4 noble truths are part of Buddhism, so it's just Buddha? Okay. Didn't need more of that? All right. We'll take it. 4 noble truths.
In the 1920s, an Italian immigrant on this peninsula named Cesare Cardini invented the Caesar salad. A CR...
Yes. Ooh, oh, that feels good. Yeah, because the Caesar salad, I think nachos are also invented in Baja California. Because a whole bunch is just like, it was a resort getaway for rich Californians. So they just actually fair amount of fine dining. Not that, nachos can be fine dining, but yeah, I want to see where this question went, because I think they were also going to ask about I bet they were going to go talk about nachos, because I'm pretty sure nachos were invented in Baja California as well.
High-profile 2019 instances of this action targeted teenagers Cody Conrad and Kyle Giersdorf. A dispute over a $1.50 bet led Tyler Barris to commit this action, causing the 2017 death of Andrew Finch. In 2018, Seattle police began allowing streamers to pre-register as...
Swatting, then. Boo, swatting sucks. Swatting is like one of the worst things possible or one of the worst things created by the internet. Swatting is when if somebody's streaming, they will some terrible people will figure out what their address is and then put in a police call saying that there's violence about to happen or happening at the address. Then the police come in and then bad things happen from there.
Plants in this family typically have flowers arranged in spikelets. Graminivores feed primarily on plants in this family. Fescue and zoysia are members.
It's just grass. Okay. Luckily, they didn't need the Greek name for grass, because I don't know what that is.
The speaker of this poem addresses a man who has murdered 12 secretaries and is madder than I am. The second part of this poem refers to modern culture with the term Moloch. The speaker of this poem tells Carl Solomon, "I'm with you in Rockland," referring to a psychiatric hospital. It begins with the words, "I saw the best minds of my generation."
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that just don't have no idea what goes on in Howl. But I've seen the best minds of my generation. I don't even know. I forget. I always buzz before I get to the end of that line, so I don't remember the full line. I've seen the succumb to madness, something like that. Yeah.
In February 2019, a measure regarding this national legislation failed when Virginia's House of Delegates refused to allow a floor vote. In the 1970s, the conservative activist Phyllis Schlafly opposed this legislation. It failed to be...
It's the ERA. Yeah, Phyllis Schlafly was against the Equal Rights Amendment. I believe that's what the Hulu series Mrs. America is about.
The rate of this process is affected by elongation factors and initiation factors. One molecule in this process has a characteristic cloverleaf structure that allows the molecule to bind the A and P sites. This process begins at the AUG sequence, which encodes methionine and is called the start codon. Ribosomes perform, for 10 points, what process in which polypeptides are synthesized from a messenger RNA template.
Okay. Translation. Yeah, that's the term. But it is protein synthesis. I'm glad they had that ready to go, as I just forgot what... just describe what it is and hope for the best.
This poem's subject shook from the tangled boughs of heaven and ocean, angels of rain and lightning. The speaker of this poem cries, "Drive my dead thoughts over the universe like withered leaves." The question, "If winter comes, can spring be far behind?" closes this poem, whose title subject is called the breath of...
Ode to the West Wind. I knew it was an ode. I think even if I got to the getaway on that, or giveaway, I probably wouldn't have remembered that unless they specifically said direction and force.
After suffering a military defeat in this state, Joseph Johnston surrendered the Army of the Tennessee at Bennett Place. Earthworks at Fort Anderson and Fort Fisher in this state impeded the Union blockade of the Cape Fear River. The USS Monitor sunk in a storm off this state's Cape Hatteras. The Battle of Bentonville helped end Confederate resistance in, for 10 points,
I should know it as
what state that contains the port of Wilmington?
Okay. Oh, North Carolina. I don't know why I moved to Delaware. That was a punt on my part. I just messed up. Like, with all the clues there, I should have just said North Carolina. I was overthinking it.
Pencil and paper ready.
Oh no.
A professor needs to know the arithmetic mean of the age of the 4 students in his seminar, given that 2 students are 20 years old, 1 student is 24 years old, and 1 student is 40 years old.
Oh.
Since the mean is the sum of the values divided by the number of values,
60.
He finds the sum of 20 plus 20 plus 24 plus 40, then divides by 4 to compute,
5,
for 10 points,
10.
What average?
Okay. I wasn't actually going to do the math. I was never going to do the math. I don't know why. Yeah, let's get a judge on this one to make sure I was right.
A right-wing populist party in this country named Vox first won Congress of Deputies seats in April 2019.
Is it Sweden?
A left-wing populist party in this country has a name that means "we can." The separatist leader Carles Puigdemont lives in exile from this country. A 2018 vote of no confidence ousted its Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy. For 10 points, name this European country where an independence movement failed.
Yeah, so it's Spain. Yeah, I kind of was thinking it was Spain. After the exiled name, it sounded vaguely Spanish to me. And then talk about independence movements, so it's the Basques. There's not too many in 2020 active independent movements in Europe outside of Spain.
Isaiah Berlin's 1939 biography of this man attacks his metaphysics but calls him the founder of modern sociology. This man wrote that the point is to change the world in his theses on Feuerbach, which he later expanded with a co-author into The German Ideology. His materialist theory of history contrasts the bourgeoisie and...
So Marx? It's either Marx or Engels. It's probably going to be Marx. Okay. I was actually trying to do the math on that last question in my head while this one was being read, so I wasn't paying very close attention. But they started talking about Germany and working together because Marx and Engels were at the Communist Manifesto. So it's either going to be one of those, and I think at this level, it's probably going to, like, their questions are just going to be about Marx instead of Engels.
These devices were named by graduate student Gordon Gould, who patented their use for generating X-rays. Arthur Schawlow used an arc lamp to create a form of this device capable of continuous operation. These devices' first working version was capable of pulses and was built by Theodore Maimon, who used a ruby as the gain meter.
So it's just a laser? It was a laser the whole time? I was thinking it was a laser. Oh, it was just a laser the whole time.
Louis D. Campbell's filibuster of this law was halted when Henry Edmondson tried to attack Campbell, forcing an adjournment. In the Peoria speech, Abraham Lincoln denounced this law and claimed that it essentially invalidated the Missouri Compromise. Stephen Douglas incorporated the concept of popular sovereignty in drafting, for 10 points, what 1854 act that organized 2 Midwestern territories?
No, it's the Yeah. Man, I forgot about the Kansas-Nebraska Act. I was working through all the other compromise things that happened on the lead up to the Civil War. I was like, well, I think the Compromise of 1850 happened before the Missouri Compromise. And then he said a year. And then I was completely forgot about any other thing that it could have been. And then, 2 states, Kansas, Nebraska.
This state's hole-in-the-wall pass was used as a hideout by gangs such as Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch.
Yeah, what was
the first U.S. national monument was Devil's Tower in this...
Devil's Tower's in Utah, I'm pretty sure. Wyoming. All right. Just had wrong knowledge on that one.
Near the end of this novel, the protagonist is held up by a winter storm in Pamplona before he and his compatriots fight off hundreds of wolves in the Pyrenees.
Hundreds of
Candles
wolves.
made from goat fat provide light to this novel's protagonist, who marks time on a post bearing the date 30th September 1659. The title character resides on the island of Despair.
Oh, Robinson Crusoe. That makes so much more sense. Oh, he fought off hundreds of wolves? That's awesome. So he got off the island. Went to the Pyrenees and had to fight off wolves. That's some bad luck. Robinson Crusoe. It's based on Andrew Selkirk, I believe, who Defoe met in prison. And Selkirk was telling him stories, and Defoe was like, I'm going to turn that into a novel.
This quantity's conservation causes material around a black hole to form a disk. In particle physics, this quantity has an orbital form and an intrinsic form called spin. After a figure skater brings his arms in...
Yeah, just get right on it. That probably would not have taken momentum, just momentum. So you got to get that angular in there. They were talking about spinning things, accretion disks, spinning things like black holes and figure skaters.
This monarch established the Kunstkamera Museum in a city he founded on the site of the Nieschanz fortress. That fort was captured by this man during a war in which he defeated the forces of Charles XII at Poltava. This man toured Dutch shipyards and required boyars to shave their beards as part of his westernizing reforms. Russia's second most populous city was founded and named by, for 10 points.
Okay. My level of Russian history knowledge is not great, but all right, I know St. Petersburg.
The fourth stanza of this poem describes the melancholy menace of the title objects, which compel a world of solemn thought. According to this poem, the title objects also make a clamorous appeal to the mercy of the fire. This poem uses the word tintinnabulation to describe how the title objects keep time in a sort of runic rhyme.
Is it more than just...
Edgar Allan Poe wrote,
I think it's just the bells. Yeah. I probably could have gotten a point or two more if I just buzzed in and remembered that the poem was just called The Bells and not The Bells of something.
Settlements on these islands include Puerto Baquerizo Moreno and Puerto Ayora. This archipelago's Bartolome Island is the site of the Pinnacle Rock and is home to the only penguins resident in the Northern Hemisphere. The name of these Pacific islands comes from the Spanish term for their native giant tortoises. For 10 points, Charles Darwin studied the unique wildlife on what...
I forgot that was an archipelago. Also, multiple islands. I haven't thought about the Galapagos for very often recently.
Synthetic incretins promote production of this molecule by mimicking GLP-1. This molecule increases GLUT4 receptor levels. The C-peptide connects the A and B chains of the precursor of this molecule. Metformin is a sensitizer of this molecule, which promotes glycogenesis.
Yeah, metformin is a diabetes treatment. So, talk about molecules and diabetes, it's going to be right into insulin.
These beings were said to be brought into existence from bloody surf and the legs of Bla'in, according to the Sibyl's vision. Loki gave the cursed ring on Vardanaut to a king of these beings named Hreidmar. One of these beings, named Brocker, was
Yeah, these gotta be dwarves. It's gotta be dwarves, right? Yeah. So when you get into Norse mythology and beings, it's kind of... when there's only a couple of multiple beings in there, so there's the giants and dwarves. What other... I guess technically there's elf-like and humans, obviously, but this wasn't gonna be humans. But the harsh sounding names are definitely going to be dwarves.
In the 1940s, this company's management included Air Force veterans known as Whiz Kids, one of whom was future Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara.
Who did McNamara
This
work
company's
for?
Willow Run plant produced B-24s during World War II. Its founder said that customers could buy this company's signature product in any...
Yeah, it's Ford. It was Ford the whole time. It was Ford off of Whiz Kids. Yeah. That last thing was going to be Ford's famous line about the Model T. You can buy it in any color you want as long as it's black.
In 2019, an employee of this agency drove a truck into protesters from the group Never Again Action in Rhode Island. In July 2018, protesters trying to occupy this agency camped outside a Portland facility. This agency was formed in 2003. It has been targeted for abolition by the group family.
Oh, it's ICE. Yeah, that's one of those, like, again, a current events question that you kind of have to put yourself 2 to 3 years in the past to try to remember what was going on at the time.
The General Leibniz rule summarizes how to repeatedly apply this rule. The opposite of this rule is essentially integration by parts. The right side of this formula can be written as UdV plus VdU, or as the quantity f prime times g plus the quantity f times g prime. You would use this rule to differentiate x log x. For 10 points, name this rule for finding the derivative of a function multiplied by another function.
Oh, this is so deep into my calculus that I don't remember. There is the chain rule. Is it the chain rule? Product rule. That's a better answer.
A nobleman in this opera uses the alias Gualtier Malde, which is called a dear name in the aria Caro Nome. This opera's protagonist shouts La Maledizione after realizing that the shrouded corpse he almost threw into a river is his daughter Gilda. The Duke of Mantua sings about female fickleness in this opera's aria La Donna Immobile.
It's Rigoletto? They'll give me that one. It was Rigoletto. They'll give me that one. When you watch through these videos, you can figure out that vowel sounds are one of my weaknesses when it comes to spelling.
This exterior part of the body is said to be the location of the Ujna chakra. A tilak is a vertical marking most commonly made on this body part. A ceremony in which this body part is marked is accompanied by the quote, "Remember, man, that thou art dust, and to dust."
Yeah, because they're talking. So the tilak must be the. No, I don't think it's the Hindu mark. I don't think. Maybe that is the tilak. Anyway, they're talking about like Ash Wednesday, and smearing some ash on your forehead.
As a child, this monarch was subject to the strict rules of the Kensington system, which was administered by the advisor John Conroy. This monarch assumed the throne during the premiership of Lord Melbourne after the death of the Sailor King, William IV. This monarch married a noble from the house of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha named Prince Albert.
It's Victoria. Yeah, I knew we were on. They kept saying this monarch, so I was figuring we were on a female monarch, but I didn't know any of those other things until they talk about the prince consort Albert. I believe. I think that was one of those royal couples. You know, a lot of them are just done for political reasons, but I think there was the historical account indicates that there was a true romance between Victoria and Albert. That after he died, she wore black for the rest of her life every day.
This character reads aloud a will that bequeaths 75 drachmas to all citizens. He imagines a spirit from hell proclaiming, "Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war."
Oh no. I buzzed in way too early. Because he says this, and I have no idea where we're at. Okay, yeah. No, yeah. Henry V doesn't even say that. Yeah, I buzzed in on such wrong information there.
One of these animals is the main villain of the animated film The Nut Job. Vincent the Bear threatens to eat one of these animals named RJ in the film Over the Hedge. In a 2014 film, a character resembling one of these animals is sent to a prison called the Kiln after being arrested by the Nova Corps along with his friend Groot.
Okay. They say resembling because Rocket Raccoon is not a raccoon. He is from Animal World, and he is not a raccoon.
Early evidence of this civilization includes crop cultivation at Cuello and Blackman Eddy. This civilization built the city of Mirador during its pre-classic period, which lasted until around AD 250. Later, it developed a base 20 numeral system that included a special character for 0. It also created the long count calendar. For 10 points, Chichen Itza was built.
Yeah, I thought it was. Oh, it's Mayans, not Inca. Yep. I thought we were Central America, and then I just said the wrong one. Because Maya were before. Oh, and Incas aren't even Central American; they're Peru. Oh, I just mess that one up on all levels.
This title character is said to have cried out like a bird with an empty nest after a dust storm subsided and left this character visible to a group of sentries. A ewer of bronze helps this character pour wine during a sacred rite. Haemon takes his own life after finding this woman dead in a cave. For 10 points, what woman defies Creon's orders and buries her brother Poly...
It's Antigone. Antigone. Lysistrata is the other one I was kind of thinking about. Because I got to Antigone, I was like, wait, isn't that the plot of something else? And no, that's Lysistrata.
This is the number of carbon atoms in the molecules known as xylenes. It is also the number of D stereoisomers of glucose, and the largest number of stereoisomers a 3-carbon molecule can have. There are this many carbon atoms in a compound that gave its name to the scale used to rate a fuel's ability to prevent...
They're talking about octane on that last clue. So you get that. Xylenes, though. Glucose has 8 stereoisomers? Yeah, I guess it has 4 inversion points. That was a good question at the end. All right, I think I did maybe a little better than I would expect on that one. Little more in touch with what they're asking for. But that's it for week 2 of the 190 practice level C. If you want to play yourself, you can check it out at neqt.com/buzzword. That's it for me. Thanks.